Come to Helmuth Ford, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Hi, this is Stacy from Shetler Insurance Services. Come see me on the east side of the square in Sigourney for all your insurance needs.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan He Asked For podcast. Trev and I joining you Wednesday evening, April 30th. It is amazing that we're already getting ready to flip the calendar to May. I feel like this year so far has gone super fast. The draft is over. School's a month from being done. Time's flying, in my opinion. It could slow down a little bit. I think I heard we're 100 days from like football kickoffs and 100 days from the state fair. And it's almost like we haven't even started summer yet, but people are already starting to plan for the fall. And that makes it a little sad because summer is just a great time to enjoy life.
Yeah, it does seem like the year's going fast. Hey, are you going to take 100 men or one gorilla?
Oh, yeah, that's that. We got to have that. Well, so overall, I think the 100 men would get them. And I think here is why. You're going to sacrifice some people. The question is, what number are you going to be? If you're going to be the first guy, you're dead meat. I mean, he's going to just break your head in half. But if you're the 75th guy, he's tired. And I think you got a chance. But if you're number 1 through 25, you're dead.
I think if you're 1 through 100, you're dead. I don't want.
Well, that could be.
I take the gorilla. I don't know. I mean, I think if somebody had a gun to my head and said, "Hey, you got to go fight this gorilla, or we'll shoot you," you're dead. I think I'd just take the bullet. I want no piece of that thing.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, me too. I want no part.
If you give me 100 men and 2 grizzly bears, and let the bears go first, then maybe. But no, I got to go with the gorilla here. I'm on the side of Team Gorilla on this one.
Yeah, overall, yes. But I do think just if it really happened, because obviously you can't put 100 people on the grill at one time. There is going to be some he's going to get tired because that's just nature. But
maybe.
But yeah, he's it's not going to be good for most of the men. If not all the men, it could be bad.
They're going to get thrown around like rag dolls, literally. And someone said, well, what if you get 100 motivated men? I don't care how motivated you are. That thing starts going crazy. You're done. So I'm on, like I said, I'm on Team Gorilla here.
Yeah. I'm going to be Team Gorilla too, but I do think there's a little bit of an argument that, if the fight lasts a half hour, it'd be tough for the gorilla.
Maybe, yeah. If you got to go, hopefully you're number 100.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you're number 1 through 25, you have zero chance. Zero. Maybe I bet 1 through 50, zero chance.
A massacre is what it'd be.
I mean, you just think those guys, you go to the zoo and you watch them just sitting there eating lettuce or whatever they're doing, just hating life. If you gave them motivation, just how bad they could rip just everything up.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a pretty sight. So yeah, that's something that's obviously been going all over social media. Seems like everybody's talking about. So I had to see what side you were on for this one.
Yeah, Team Gorilla, and especially if it was 100 me's, we'd die in a hurry.
Yeah, no kidding. I'd want no part of it.
All right. We're going to recap the draft here. That's going to be the main topic. Let's just go ahead because I think it just came out today. I don't know how to say his name, but the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator son prank called Shedeur Sanders, and he's admitted it. He's apologized, everything. Fined him $100,000 and the Falcons $250,000, correct?
Yeah, they got a fine. There was some thoughts. Some people thought they should be docked a draft pick. I didn't think that'd happen. I figured a fine about this amount would be appropriate. We did prank phone calls in high school all the time, but of course those were like to 1-800 numbers to Bowflex and some of those other ones, those infomercials that were always going on. It wasn't during someone's draft night, but it was a dumb moment for the kid or a couple, because it sounds like he may have called some other players, but Shedeur Sanders didn't die here. So I think a fine to the team and to the defensive coordinator is probably appropriate.
So if you're the Falcons, do you make him pay the whole $350,000?
You might. I'm sure the league sat down and had a conversation. They don't want people's phone numbers or any type of information getting out. The NFL is very secretive about certain things, and it was a bad look overall. But of course, in today's society, everybody's got to go and become famous on social media, TikTok, whatever the videos might be. So, yeah, it was a dumb move by the kid. He put out an apology. Now he's getting ridiculed online, which he deserves. So, kind of an eye for an eye there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a life lesson. You would think in your own home, if your iPad doesn't get locked screen right away, it's not a big deal. But you can see how, and I do think Shedeur Sanders handled it as well as he could have. I mean, obviously, he probably wasn't super happy at the moment, but he didn't go crazy, didn't go blaming people. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's human. And it is what it is.
Shedeur handled it really well, considering everything that happened to him on draft night, the second night, and then into day 3. So
Right.
Shedeur and his family handled that really well. What they didn't handle well was the pre-draft process. It ended up costing them. I text you that 93 or over 1,500 mock drafts are monitored by a mock draft database, by all the people on NFL.com, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, you name it. 93% had Shedeur as a first-round pick, and most of the remaining 7% had him early second. So this was one where the media, some of the insiders, and groupthink was just off on this one. And it was, he and his dad didn't take the pre-draft process seriously. They made a mockery out of it.
When he went to the combine, correct? And just didn't do all this stuff. Or am I wrong in that?
Yeah, he was at the combine. He went to some other events. And the thing is when the college football season ends, from the day you play your last game until draft, it's all one long interview process. And he conducted himself like he was a top 5 pick or a surefire first-round pick. That's a lot of his fault. It's a lot of Deion's fault also. And you saw rumors come out, specifically with the Giants, that they put an install in. Shedeur didn't study. Brian Daboll called him out in the meeting, and Shedeur got defensive about it. And we've all done it. Everybody has. You don't study for a test in high school or college, or you don't prep for an interview or whatever it might be. You wing it. Usually the results aren't positive. It ends up costing you. And that's what happened to Shedeur. It's just a little bit different because millions of dollars are on the line for this. And, if you put yourself – think about Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. They have very little time to mess around. They're on the hot seat as much as anybody. And those guys, there's a real good chance that they're never given a head coaching job or a GM job in the NFL again if they're fired. So they have very little time for nonsense. I would guess they probably went into the process hopeful that Shedeur could be the guy. And all these teams, eventually there's a breaking point where Shedeur leaves the room or they get off the team's call, whatever it might be. And they probably all looked at each other and they said, we got to cross them off the list. We've got 20 other quarterbacks to evaluate. We've got 300 other players total to evaluate. They're not spending 10 hours a day for 90 days only evaluating Shedeur, even though that's what ESPN wants you to believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's – and I think Cam Ward was the exact opposite. And some of it is just the way, Cam Ward started at Incarnate Word and then worked his way up. So he didn't come out with his dad's not Deion Sanders, which that's no one's fault. I mean, that's not Shedeur's fault either. That's just his life. And wasn't, he had to earn his way up from the start. And, there was interviews and when they were together that Ward doesn't have really any hobbies. It's football. And Shedeur wants to talk about rapping and all the other things that he does because he doesn't, if football doesn't work for Shedeur, he's going to be okay in life. That's what he was given. Cam Ward, his chance to make it and to be someone and to help his family for generations is him. So he's, from everything you've seen, now it doesn't mean it's going to work out, but he's done everything in his power to set himself up to be the number 1 pick and to be as successful as he can up until this point.
Yeah, as Pat McAfee calls it, it's the men's league. This isn't the National TikTok League. This isn't the Instagram Association. It's the NFL. There's been thousands of players before Shedeur. There'll be thousands after. And these teams, they don't have a whole lot of time for messing around. There's guys with red flags that got drafted. We'll talk about some of them. But when you're going in through the interview process, you at least got to pretend to be buttoned up or pretend to care. And there's rumors that he made people feel small. He was indifferent about a lot of stuff. Just assumed that he was going to be a first-round pick. And I told you my comparison to him was kind of a mix of Tyrod Taylor and Jared Goff. Well, if you look, Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick. I think Tyrod Taylor was pick number 180. So if you combine them, it's about pick 91 roughly, right? I think Shedeur went 144, whatever it was. I would assume there was teams that probably had him at a second or a third round grade that would have taken him. But then when you add in, on top of everything, not being prepared, really just acting like a jackass in these interviews, that's what happens. And I don't know if Jimmy, speaking of the Browns too, I think it was a Jimmy Haslam pick. I don't know if he steps in and makes the Browns take Shedeur Sanders. He probably keeps falling quite a ways.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Browns, I mean, there was serious discussions before the draft that they were going to take him at number 2. And they got him in the 5th round. So if you want to think the Browns themselves, they might have got a great deal if he turns out to be any type of quarterback or can lead anybody and turn it around.
Yeah, it could end up being a steal. I mean, there's 2 differences. ESPN, all the insiders, myself, everybody was wrong. Now, of course, Stephen A. Smith and the people on ESPN are never going to admit that. They're going to blame it on other things, which is just silly. It's a dishonest conversation that they're having. Groupthink, like I said, got it wrong this time. 93% of mock drafts had him as a first rounder. The NFL teams told you differently. You got to take your interview seriously, even if you're Shedeur Sanders. You can't go making people feel small, acting like an idiot. You got to be prepared. And he's not talented enough to half-ass it. I mean, and that's what he did, and it cost him.
You know, his dad had that swagger, maybe did things a little unconventionally, but he was talented and he was a proven commodity. There was no questions on whether he'd be a good football player. And so again, as you talked about it a minute or so ago, there's people with red flags. They don't care. They'll draft you because the NFL teams want to win. But with him, and I heard it compared to Kaepernick and Tebow, when it got to the stage in their careers where they were only going to fight for the backup spot, when you're the backup quarterback, you can't be a distraction. You can't be trying to be the show. If you're the starter and you're winning, they'll put up with it. But you can't be the backup and be the guy that the media wants to talk to, or you're the one on social media putting things out when you're the backup quarterback. So so the Browns got to make a decision. Are they willing to put up with that for him to be the backup or give him a shot? Or are they just going to cut him here with being a 5th round pick? They don't owe him anything. They can cut him tomorrow.